Good morning, Americans. This is your favorite alien here on the morning of Saturday, April 1st, 2023. Ooh, April Fools! Well, anyway, today's special commentary is on the demise of the United States, and it's due for two reasons: Harding slash Trump and Democrats. Excuse me. And here we go. Well, Americans, you will cease to be a nation sometime next year. And you notice it started already. You have already said, oh, yeah, we got indictment for Donald J. Trump. Yeah. And like I told you in my last video, Trump is like the redwood. And the crazy Democrats are going after the roots or tentacles. Ever try to pull a stump in the roots from a redwood? Really? Okay. Well, give you a hint. An honorable mention goes to the radical Republicans in 1865 for trying to put down Mr. Johnson in 1868. They came close, but a senator from Tennessee, Ross, saw differently and saw that the United States was in peril and voted not to impeach. Good judgment, boy. He is one of the rare Americans that have that kind of judgment. And you Democrats and media like CNN have been griping at some of the Republicans who are saying, you can't go after Donald Trump. And believe me, inside they hate Donald Trump, but outside they know what this is going to cause. 100 years ago, there was a president, Republican, named Warren G. Harding. And he was as bad as Donald Trump ever is. His administration was marked by disastrous consequences. At that time, you Republicans were isolationist. But you were. Okay, Republicans, you were isolationist 100 years ago. Extremist leftists. And that's what you were. You were that way till 1940. With Wendell Wilkie. Yeah. But you were that way. Extremist that. You look at the people you had in your Republican Party. Charles Augustus Lindbergh. Yuck. Really? Nazis? Extreme eugenics people? In the 1920s, you had eugenics that was starting to go. By 1930, there was big business in the eugenics side. And put it this way, that Augustus Lindbergh, he came close to really messing up old FDR in 1940. He came really close. And that's how close you Republicans have come, and Democrats. But I think the Democrats is the one that gets the thing, because you guys get the history nod of destroying the United States. Democrats, not Republicans. Ha ha ha. So in 1923, you had the Republicans, which were extreme leftist isolationists, and Democrats, which were, believe it or not, Democrat extreme rightists. And you were that close to indicting Warren G. Harding for the Teapot Dome scandal, which turned out to be a huge scandal. If you look at that scandal in today's media, wow, that would have been something to cover there. It would have made Watergate look like a minor league baseball game. Or Donald Trump's indictment here as, Bush League. Yeah. But anyway, it never got to that point, because in 1923, 100 years ago in August, President Harding was supposedly, according to the record, supposedly going on a pre-1924 stump, like Trump is doing right now for re-election to the presidency. Yeah. So he left his stooge that nobody liked, and they put him in this. Like I said, remember you put guys in second banana positions? Calvin Coolidge! And he went west. Well, he had to get diverted, and they ended up in San Francisco in August. Mm-hmm. And the official record states, remember, it was cardiology was in its infancy 100 years ago, but they say that he had some issues with his heart. And he was 57 years old. He was not a Donald Trump guy. He was a young guy by today's standards. Old by then. He was like Donald Trump is today. Can he serve in office? He's 57. Yeah, they had those kind of questions too back then, by the way. You're supposed to be in the late 40s, early 50s, and after that, you cannot serve in the office. Yeah. Now you get 80-year-olds, 75-year-olds, and oh boy, Ronald Reagan sure messed us up, did he? Oh, yeah. Excuse me. Bad name to say. Anyway, because he's the one that started all this mess. But here you are, 100 years ago, 1923. And, well, President Harding died in a hotel in San Francisco, and there's a lot of different things out there. You know, you got your conspiracy theorists out there, and they were out there back in the 1920s. This is nothing new, boys. Yo! Yeah. And some of the conspiracy theories says he was having hanky-panky, and he died during hanky-panky. That's just a theory, okay? Conspiracy theory. U.S. government will deny that till the bottom falls out of it. But then again, think what happened. At the time, the second wife of Warren G. Harding, told them to embalm him an hour after he was croaked. So by the time the U.S. Doctors got there from Washington, they couldn't do anything because he was already embalmed. Yeah. And her and her doctor took, precedence over there. Calvin wasn't notified that Calvin didn't do this and Calvin didn't do that for a bunch of times, a couple of months anyway, before Mr. Calvin came into the picture. This is bad, isn't it? Yeah. Kind of reminds me of, the Democrats and President Woodrow Wilson a couple years earlier when he had the stroke and his wife took over and the vice president never did anything about it. Oh, boy. Ugh. See what I mean, Americans? You already messed up your country. So, yeah. Okay. So, anyway, it came out that President Harding was really involved in the Teapot Dome scandal. And, boy, he could have got indicted. And he came close. If he would have lived a few more days, he would have been indicted. That's how close it was. Ooh, can you imagine a president indicted in the 1920s? Extra, extra, read all about it. Yeah. Oh, boy, the papers would have had, put it this way, William Randolph Hearst would have been, yippee, I got my scandal. But anyway, everything was put down to the thing. Oh, yeah, and by the way, to this day, they have found in the last 20 years stuff about Warren G. Harding. You know that he was being blackmailed by a lady and he was paying her like Stormy, over here with Donald Trump, Stormy Daniels. Yeah, well, he was paying this lady a lot more than Stormy Daniels, and he paid her, all the way through her end of her life. And that was in the 1950s. Yeah. And then you had another lady who happened to be an 18-year-old when he met her in the late 1880s. And he was older, by the way. Anyway, he took her as his secretary or something like that. Her name was Nan Britton. She had a daughter named Elizabeth, I think. And, well, Mrs. Harding knew about this, and she couldn't do anything about it. It was like poor Mrs. Roosevelt and FDR, the lady that was there from 1914 till he croaked in 1945. Because, you know, she was there in Warren Springs, Georgia. And poor Mrs. Roosevelt was in Washington, D.C. I feel sorry for that lady. That lady did more for this country than any other lady around. But anyway, going back to Warren G. Harding. Well, yeah, it turned out that in 2015, they finally did a genetic comparison and determined that, yes, Miss Elizabeth Britton was the daughter of Warren G. Harding. Yee! A couple of years before she died, because she was born in 1921, so she was almost 100. Poor girl. Can you having to live with this mess for 100 years? Ew. Well, anyway, with all the stuff that they did, Warren G. Harding and his administration caused everything that you have today. They caused the crash of 1929 with their laissez-faire capitalism that they had at the time. Oh boy, buying short and selling long. Ugh. Well, it come back to Hanum in 29, didn't it? It cost Mr. Hoover his presidency. Poor Mr. Hoover. Hooverville! Yeah, well, and to tell you the truth, if they would have gone after Warren G. Harding, that would have been embarrassing for the United States. Here, in the case of Donald J. Trump, you Democrats are determined to put him down. But the problem is you already messed up your country. And it all started back when you supposedly have a doctrine and a prime directive. And the prime directive was independence. So you created the Declaration of Independence. And 56 people signed that Declaration of Independence. And in the last paragraph they said, and we hereby pledge our fortunes, our sacred honor in our lives to this endeavor. Okay? 55 of them honored that agreement because they didn't come out unscathed from this agreement. Everyone in there suffered heavy losses, some their lives, a lot their fortunes, and a lot their honor. And one guy didn't live up to the pledge. He was captured by the British, and he recanted that he ever wanted to sign that Declaration of Independence. So he was released with the British with information to the Americans, and the Americans took him back and didn't do anything. He died a couple years later in 1781, and his name was Stockton from New Jersey. Look it up. Then almost 200 years later, in 1969, the Board of Regents of the universities in New Jersey started a new university, Stockton University. So you see, to add insult on the wound, Americans, you have a guy that signed the Declaration of Independence. Unlike his 55 other companions, he recanted that he was ever an American and wanted to be free. The British could have still hung him. But what did they do? They let him go and send him back. And he lived 2 years, and the Americans knew about it and never reported it to anybody. So you see, you have lost your prime directive. Then in 1789, you created your dogma, the Constitution, and you created the cornerstone, the ideal that goes along with the prime directive. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, and not only did you sign that thing, but before the ink was dry, The Constitution was broken. It never has been fixed ever since. And like one of your presidents, Thomas Jefferson, who told another president, James Madison, half a loaf is better than no loaf at all. So see, you can't go after Donald J. Trump. There's a lot of people you could have gone after before. Andrew Jackson. Could have gone after Warren G. Harding. You could have gone after FDR for a lot of things that he did. You could have gone after Mr. President Truman for dropping the atomic bomb on civilians. Oh, yeah. Hiroshima and Nagasaki, civilians. Happened to be Japanese, yeah. And, at the state of mind, doesn't matter if they're Japanese or Americans or Mexicans or whatever they are still people. And you drop a deadly bomb on them. Oh, well, we wanted to win the war and avoid 1 million American lives. You caused this war in 1853. Remember? It's a law of unintended consequences that came back to bite you in the butt. Now, you got a case of a president that's gone amok. Donald J. Trump. Well, so has Mr. Biden, but we don't claim him because he's going to be croaked soon. Yeah, poor guy. Anyway, but yeah, there. And your nation's going to be kind of disoriented. And there's one thing I don't understand. Your nation doesn't exist after this coming year. But like I told you before, and I know it's April Fool's, but I don't mean this as an April Fool's thing. Your human race ends on July 22nd, 2065. Okay? And one of the things that survives American is your National Football League. For some reason or another, it survived. And in February of 2065, it celebrated its 99th Super Bowl. And the winner of that Super Bowl in February 2065, the Detroit Lions. Ugh. And in July 22nd, 2065, the Mushka attack. And the human race was forever wiped off the face of the earth, like I said. And that's why I tell you, don't let the Lions win the Super Bowl, or you'll lose your lives, your race, and everything on the planet, human-wise. Good day.